All right, everyone. I am Marwan Cameron. This is the Conduit, and this is another episode of Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces. Present and accounted for. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let me go ahead and bring on our illustrious co-host today, Mark Boatwright-Frost.
How y'all doing?
Oh, they're excited for you today, Mark. How you doing?
I am doing awesome. I am doing
Good,
absolutely
excellent.
awesome.
Excellent.
So I brought a friend with me here.
Is that Bubbles?
He will. No, this is Ishmael. He'll be giving us.
That's Ishmael.
He'll be keeping an eye on us. Yep.
Ah, okay. Well, I look forward to finding out more. So why don't we just jump right on in?
So the second thing I sent to you in chat. Why don't you put that up? Because that is the topic of today's show.
Well, because I had to restart, you'll have to resend it. There's nothing in chat anymore for me.
Okay.
All right. Thank you there, Mr. Dent, letting us know that our audio and our video is looking good. I appreciate that. As always, as you can see, the show is changing and growing, which is awesome. So we're excited about that. And let me go ahead and put that in the chat there. All right. Teacher seeks pupil, must have an earnest desire to save the world. Apply in person. Ooh, elaborate.
Okay, so in the book Ishmael by Daniel Quinn, this is the opening paragraph. Guy opens his paper in the morning and sees an advertisement for this. And this is where it all begins. I want to change a little bit of this for what we do, but it applies to us as well. Must have earnest desire to save humanity is, I think, a more appropriate thing. Because quite honestly, if we go away, the world will do just fine. But we won't be here. So what we're seeking at Resilient Ecosystems and in the Kitsap Resiliency Project and through all of its partners like G2 and all of the other folks that are lining up with us is we want pupils who have an earnest desire to save humanity. Which is selfish in the most beautiful way. Because if you save humanity, you thrive and you do better yourself. So you always ask me, what is in it for people? Why is it that people would want to do this? Pastor Ellington asked the same question. Why would people be interested in getting out of their comfort zone, connecting with other people, talking to their neighbors, creating resilient communities? What's in it for them? Well, we can talk about how disasters happen, but that's far off into the future, and people don't care about that. We can talk about all of the possible threats and worries to the world. People don't care about that. They act when there's a crisis in front of them right now. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, yeah.
So what crisis could we look at right now that would be right in front of us that would get people motivated to talk to their neighbors and build resilient communities? And I'm about to send you one more thing.
All right.
because we're going to be talking about this a lot. And I want people to be very clear on what a resilient community is. And this is just a very basic definition from Google.
All right, so I'm going to put that in there and I'll read this.
Okay.
Community resilience is the sustained ability of communities to withstand, adapt to, and recover from adversity. Health, meaning physical, behavioral, social, and environmental health and well being, is a big part of overall resilience.
So if the mind is right, you can do a lot. If the mind is not right, you can't do anything. I mean, this is heady stuff, but it's just you get down to it. If your head isn't in the game, you can't play.
Hmm.
So part of being resilient is getting your head in the game. So why do you want to be resilient? Right now, you go to the store and you go to buy some fruit, some vegetables, and you're paying, according to the last report I saw, about 12% more than you were 6 months ago. If you go to the store and you go to buy toilet paper, you're paying a little bit more than you were. If you go to rent an apartment, you're paying significantly more. I think it was like 23% more than you were this time last year. So being resilient is working with your neighbors and your community to prepare for more of the same, because this isn't going away anytime soon. And is a huge argument to be made that it's not going to go away at all. And things are going to get more expensive because there just aren't as many of them and supply has been disrupted.
Hmm.
We also have monkeypox sitting out there. Now, I'm sorry, I can't even say the name without laughing. But we've not done with COVID yet. My friends in Australia are basically um, minor shutdown again because it's their winter and they're having another round of it. We are not leaving our homes even yet after almost 3 years of it. So our life has changed completely. We are not experiencing the freedom we had 2 years ago. Now, we are all on our own in this. And so, why does it matter if you have community resilience when COVID? Well, if you have community resilience and someone gets sick and somebody else in your neighborhood knows about it, you can get someone that can help take care of you. If there's food shortages and neighborhoods come together and start gardening, you grow food for each other. If your car breaks down and because of COVID or because of monkeypox, because of whatever, you've lost your job, or you're working fewer hours, or you've had a financial downturn, people can help each other overcome that. And what we have to do is see that it's not only us, it's everybody. But we have to, and so here it goes back to the teacher seeking a pupil. We have to learn how to do this because it does not come naturally to us anymore. I talk to people in other countries that still have neighborhoods and still have communities, and it's a far different picture than we have here, where we don't really have communities here. We have virtual communities, or so-called communities, or communities set up around a very specific thing. But it's not about people working together or getting to know each other and forming relationships, because that's a very scary thing for us. And we
Well,
have to learn how to do that again.
let me ask some questions here.
Sure.
Because if we have viewers that are tuning in, they may be taking that some kind of way, right?
Right.
As because what you're saying is, one, you're making a very general statement, like we don't have, like it just doesn't exist here at all, and there's an absence of community, and there are several folks that would say, no, I'm in a very thriving community, either with my church or a club or the union or whatever, and so they will push back on that, right? And so is it a thing of they're not part of your community, because their community, they feel like they're thriving, uh, what
Okay,
exactly do you mean there?
let's dive deeper into that. We have communities that are more social clubs than communities, by my definition. We go out, we do things, we go drinking, we go bowling, we go to church together. But are you in your community? Are you watching other people? I mean, in a lot of church communities, I will give you that people keep an eye on each other. At least they used to, and maybe not as much anymore as they used to. But um, do you grow food together? Do you build resources to help overcome people in downturn? Now, we've worked with, and you guys make food for at the Pancake Breakfast for the prayer walk, and they go out and they feed the homeless people, and that's a beautiful thing, and that can be called community work. But are those folks working with the neighbors in their own community to strengthen their community and their interconnectedness? Do you know in your neighborhood who the healthcare worker is? Because
I don't.
almost there is one.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Do you know who the gardeners are?
I know a few of them.
Okay. So do you know who works on cars?
Actually, I know one. He
Okay.
actually has the same Ford F-150 as I do.
So does he know you? Have you talked about about his experience? Are you uh, have you have you broken bread together? Have you sat down and talked about who each other are? Have you built a
Not out,
relationship?
not outside the neighborhood barbecue that we had. No.
So that's what I'm talking about, is building those relationships. God, I got to tell you, it's a little weird seeing my mouth move behind you. Um, Building those relationships and learning who the other people are. And it may seem a little predatory when you're thinking about your needs for somebody else, but you're also giving of yourself to their needs. But until you have a conversation with them and build that relationship, you don't know what they need, and you won't know what you can do. This goes back to the whole puzzle piece thing we've been talking about all through all of these. We all have pieces of the puzzle, and you've got a small puzzle in your neighborhood, but all the pieces are in their houses, not talking to each other.
If you're talking about my actual neighborhood, yes, because it sounds like what you're saying is because I have an absence of community on my block that I need to focus more on that, which would which would make me withdraw from the community work that I do, right? Because I only have so much bandwidth. So while I hear what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying, I don't have the capacity to do both. So I would have to make a choice, right? Either I advocate for folks on, MLK. I do a food program on Thursdays. I do a pancake breakfast. I do a neighborhood barbecue in different communities, or I really focus on my own neighborhood, which then kind of silos me off, right?
But that's just you. The thing about a community is there, and you've said this many, many times. Many hands make light work. Maybe you just
Right.
have to be a catalyst in your community and get them talking to each other, and then just be part of it as opposed to manage it. And that's the thing, is
Well,
we each think we have to manage the whole thing, and we don't. We just have to start engaging in people and let them bring their pieces of the table.
so using myself as an example, I think that's really just a challenge, right? So we had the inaugural barbecue, neighborhood barbecue here, and outside of that, they haven't caught any fire. So as soon as you take your foot off the gas, they tend to retreat back into their patterns. So that is the issue. Although now my neighbor did walk up to me and say, "I've been meaning to give you this money to toward the support of what you do, and I really appreciate you." So, and I do have several folks on the block that help support G2, which is awesome. But again, if I'm not actively and intentionally knocking on the doors or trying to organize them, it's not happening.
So again, it's not an immediate thing. It takes time. All relationships do.
Mhm.
But what if you walked across the street and talked to the lady who was there? And I'm sorry, I didn't get her name. and I feel very bad about that. But the lady that was there who does gardening, and say, what can I do to help you do more of a food garden,
That sounds
or
great,
just
but
maybe what you
again,
like.
at this point, my plate runneth over, so I might be a bad example. I'm at the end of
Yeah,
my
and but
of
the
bandwidth.
same thing can be. But anybody that is listening to this can say the exact same thing. Very few people have time on their hands.
Mhm.
But in my case, I tend to make time to go out and talk to my neighbors periodically just to keep moving them forward and engaging with them and having conversations. And most of that is involved around me asking questions and getting
Right,
them to talk.
and I think that's where that gets to the crux of my original inquiry, right? Which is when you're making a general statement about, hey, folks don't have a sense of community, they're not doing the work, and it's like, well, in my example, actually, I am really doing the work. I just don't do it here on my block the way that I do it for the rest of the county, right? Um, and so, yes, there are other people that could say that they are busy, and this isn't a measuring contest, but I would say, yeah, there's definitely no more time in my. I would have to take something away to build that up, as I'm already well over my skis and have been for years.
Well, and as I see your Facebook feeds about all of the shows that you do, I agree that you have a lot of things on your plate, and I think of, oh my God, Marwan is in a podcast hell here.
Well, and that's just the conduit, right? That's just the show that's produced. That's not the research and the conversations and the Zoom meetings. And if it was just that, that would be enough. But then there's G2, and then there's, being a father, and it's all the things, right? So um yeah, it's pretty crazy. So my life is not one of entertainment and leisure.
I get that. So let me ask
Right?
this question for you.
Mm,
With all of the work you do in the greater community, and you do fabulous work, I'm not belittling it at all. You do great stuff for people, and you reach out and you get things out. Yes, pat on the back. Um, but if it hits the fan, I was trying to figure out how to say that without saying any of the S or F words. If it hits the fan and you're confined to home and you don't have a community, your neighborhood is not a community, and you're not working together, how much is the bigger community you've been working to develop going to help you? Now let me say this. Let me say this more clearly. Both are long-term propositions. None of this happens overnight, and we tend to be in a culture that wants things to happen immediately, or we stop paying attention to them. The larger community needs to change, but that is a long-term change, and you're doing a lot of work toward that change by bringing information to people, getting them to think, challenging them to act. And in the smaller community, the same work has to be done, but slightly differently. And I think that they're both equally important. And it's not an either or, it's an and.
oh,
And I
you
would
want me to
challenge
read?
you, yeah, I would challenge you to think about how to make your neighborhood an and. How can that support you in your work to the greater community and develop relationships in your neighborhood?
Well, I would have to see a value in that enough to prioritize it over the other things that I'm doing. And to answer your question, I may be using the wrong term here. I have sort of is it a nihilistic viewpoint? Um, what I believe is, if there's a zombie apocalypse, the zombies are going to get me. I'm not going to be able to run very far. and someone's going to push me down so they can get away. Right? You're smiling like, "Yep, buddy, you're going to be a snack because I'm moving."
I was
Right?
I was thinking about a joke where these two guys are in the woods hiking, um, and a bear comes out, and one guy leans down and ties his sneakers up. He says, "What the hell are you doing?" He says, "I don't need to beat the bear. I just need to beat you."
Yeah, absolutely. So in that, you know,
Hey, Sabrina.
when you are helping people, where I get into trouble is when I have expectation for the help that I provide, right? And a lot of folks will say, "Well, you know, you shouldn't expect anything if people help you," and I think that's cap. And the reason why I think that's cap is it's not that I want you to do something for me. I want you to do something for you, right? I'm expending my energy and my time that I could pour into someone else or put into a different direction or pour into me or my daughter or whatever the case may be, but instead I'm pouring it into you. So no, I don't want you to do something for me, but I do want you to use the tools that I'm giving you, right? The help that I'm providing. Otherwise it's like, well, what's the point? I'm just giving you something and you're just throwing it in the garbage. So I do have that expectation um there, and I'm going to be honest about that because a lot of people aren't. At the same time, I understand that people don't move as fast as you do. Folks are going to fall and have to get up. Folks will. I was just having a conversation about this with Rob today. When folks are in my orbit and they want to change their lives to do the right thing, then they're right up next to you, and they're willing to listen and do the things that you advise them to do. Now, when they're ready to do something else or stray away from that, they disappear, right? And then they go and do what they have to do. And then when they're ready to come back, right, it's like either they saw the error of their ways, they're exhausted from it, or just was it was a mistake, it was a bad decision. I won't call it because you have power over your thoughts. Then they'll come back when it's time, and the longer it takes for them to come back is the more guilt and shame that they may have because they disappointed you. But ultimately, that exists for me. That's my experience. So I have high expectations for people that I help, and I do want to see them use it. So in that sense, it's like, okay, if there's an emergency situation, Cascadia Rising, we get the big earthquake and we get cut off. The thing is that the folks that I'm helping are not in a position oftentimes to help themselves, so I can't have an expectation that they would be there to help me. So for my own self preservation, I probably should align myself more with people that can fill in the gaps of my own life for me and my family should something happen. Just I wasn't raised that way, and this is kind of the path that I'm on. This is how I'm driven. The answer to that question to go further is my core team of G2. If something happens, we have these protocols in place, and while it may be hard for them to get to where I'm at, this is the rally point, right?
You
And
to
so
get
we
where
have
they
some things.
are,
Say again.
or you to get where they are.
Yeah, if something should happen that way, and you have some maps that you're going to share, but the assumption would be right now, because we don't know where things are going to it's going to be bad. But if things are all good, we've got some plans in place on where we're going to be, how we're going to get there, and then how we're going to maintain, food and security to maintain and then get through. And then part of that is, getting involved with emergency management and things of that nature. So we're part of the solution and we're part of the information, firsthand and access to resources. So that's what we're doing. So yes, could I be more intentional on doing that in my block? Ooh, I could, but again, my goal, the mission is self-sufficiency for all the Kitsap County residents. And so yeah, I could start on my block, but
How,
that's
how
just
do
not how I
let me
operate.
ask this question: how do we get there if you don't start on your block?
You know what? That might be a that's a fair question. What I would say is typically like being a teacher at the college, right? I go to the college and I teach the people that come into the classroom, that go through the registration and admissions process and whatnot, right? I'm not teaching the people in the church or other communities that I'm in, right? Because the first thing is you have to earn a living, and so I think that is kind of how I view that, right? Oftentimes, I was adopted, and I grew up having being a little resentful when I was in my youth, because I was the first one adopted of 16. And what my father would do, he was a principal and a school teacher, and so he had all this bandwidth in a child's eye for everyone else's kids and not us, right? And so he's working at night, doing his principalship, and then a 911 dispatcher graveyard, and then he's teaching during the day. And it's like, we want you here, and everyone else loves them, and we feel kind of neglected. But part of that is I've got to go out to try to make the world better for you here. And so you've got your responsibilities that I need you to be able to do. Your job as a kid is to go to school and learn, and to behave yourself, and get the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you're gonna have. And it wasn't like he wasn't there, but he wasn't. Kid wants to be all up under the parent, and so it wasn't like that. Now I've learned that in my adulthood, and now I've emulated my father in that way. So that again, that's just how I'm built, right or wrong. Just kind of as an explanation of how I operate.
So, right or wrong, those are words that I have trouble with because life's a journey. It changes all the time. We just don't like it changing. But how we do things, we continue to do them until we find out they don't work, and then we do different things. And that's kind of being human.
But who
So
says my way is not working?
I'm not saying that one way or the other. I'm just saying right or wrong. There may not be a right or wrong way. Or there may be many right ways and there may be many wrong ways. I'm just saying that there are lots of ways to do things, and humans are able to change and revise what they do when another way works better than the one that they are currently on. Fair statement?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. And to that end, I consider myself, I say visionary sounds really big. I'm an idea person, and I'm not afraid to try different things. Hence the neighborhood barbecue, right? It's just as you say, we have, yeah, innovation. We have difficulty with finding folks that hear the message, get involved, and then catch their own fire and say, hey, I want to take this on and keep building, right? And so we're
but,
constantly out there sharing our experience and giving folks information in the hopes that some will be drawn to us and then go out and be their own ambassadors and continue to build and grow in their own neighborhoods and in their own communities. But that's always been kind of the $30,000 question is, how do you bring people to you and get them to catch that same kind of fire and activate them?
strangely enough, that's happening more and more as we've done outreach and as we've changed things up. We have more people now in conversation than we have before. It's not a lot. I mean, it's not 20,000 people, but it's six or seven, 10 that weren't engaged in the conversation 2 months ago. So we're doing something that is engaging people in the conversation. And we knew all the way along, and you and I've had lots of conversations about this, that it's going to take a long time to get to the 20% of the people that are going to actually be able to do something with this. And
Right,
so
absolutely. And if
you're
I didn't
told as
believe
a
in that, then I wouldn't start a company, right? Or multiple companies, because it would be futile, right? And I'm just throwing money into the garbage. So I learned a while, and I give a shout out to Kitsap Strong and Cody Russell for this. When we first started, we were in um, a learning community with a bunch of other organizations. And when I first started, I wanted to be McDonald's, right? The billions and billions served. And he said something to me that changed the way that the company operates. And what it was I could give, uh, you know 20,000 people a meal, right? Or I could really get in and provide some really holistic wraparound services for 10 people, and really push them on the road to self-sufficiency. And so while it feels good to be able to feed the masses, and that many people are hungry indeed, but it's one meal. So maybe you're doing 100 folks, but now you're really supporting them. Um, and we're able to see that, right? In the conversations that we have, we can watch and see how people's lives change, their lives of their children change, that go on this journey with us. And you can see the growth, and you can see where they've come from. They can see where they've come from, and then they articulate that, right? Because they're at the end of the day, they're the ones that have to say whether or not they felt like it was a benefit, being a part of G2 for whatever time frame that they were engaged with us. And so that
And
changed us. And so now I'm not worried about, I got to serve the masses in that regard.
right, and I just want to put one more caveat on that statement you just made. How they feel about working with G2 or being part of G2 now will change over time, and will morph and grow as they remember how things worked. One of the other things you guys are do is you connect people, which is so vitally important. And in that way, you are helping teaching people how to fish and how to connect. Now, if we want people to connect their neighborhoods and connect and grow from a grassroots level, which is really what the Kitsap Resiliency Project is all about, is starting off with the neighborhoods and then creating grassroots communities, levels, and being able to change things through that. Doing the top down, teaching mass people, feeding 10,000 people, which is what governments do, that doesn't create change in a sense of making things better. It keeps things the way they always have been, the way they always are, because government is about stability. We need change, and that's going to be grassroots from the bottom up, which means talking to people and getting them to talk to their neighbors, talking to our neighbors, and engaging them in seeing that there is mutual benefit to getting to know each other and to begin working together. And that's a slow process.
It is a slow process, and again, that's why I consider myself a innovative type person. Uh, when you and I met, was it last year? Have we known each other for
Yeah,
more than a year?
be a year ago September.
Year ago September, right? So a year ago September, and we've done almost a half a year of podcasts together, right? And have
This
fed
is
hundreds of
27.
people. you know, we fed hundreds of people through new ideas, and in that vein, it's always difficult to get new people to come in, and part of it is like I was saying before, right? Everyone has this different level of need, and has a different level of time that they can give, and so some just need help and can't give back in the way that you might need at that time, but actually them becoming resilient is them giving back, if you think about it in that way. And so that one, that's important. And then two, G2 didn't do a podcast, a year ago. G2 is now getting into doing a training for youth and young adults to learn how to podcast themselves. We're covering more and more events. We're getting into government and politics, because as you said, it is we the people, but we need the people that actually represent the community to be in these positions to make change. And unfortunately, I don't see that the change is so slow and so incremental when we vote in one person. I think we need to in mass, you know go and get in there and change things the way that they need to be, uh, in a more humane way of governing, and really thinking about the people. And so, for me growing up, I was never interested in government. Didn't care about voting. Felt disenfranchised. All those things. And now here I am, almost a 50-year-old man, and that time has been lost. That I could have been activated and more invested in having an understanding. And use my tools back then in that way. So what can I do now with young adults, with our kids, to give them that education, show them where there's some power. How can they, get a petition going? How can they run? How can they be a council person? How can they make their voices heard? And so that is how I continue to try to innovate and bring and create community in ways that didn't exist previously.
And you did that very well at the pancake breakfast last week.
Mm.
And actually, Sean helped with that a lot because he talked about, and I'm going to completely brain fart on this, but not the petition, but the creating a law, getting a law in the
The
books, and
initiative.
I'm initiatives. Thank you.
Mm.
That's what I was looking at. Creating the initiative and explaining to the youth that was there how to do an initiative.
Right.
And you and I, and have had conversations about how initiatives might improve a lot of what we do. But that's one of the tools where the community speaks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you talk about how you could engage with your neighborhood in the end, and I say things like community gardens and or finding out who builds cars. But how about sitting down and talking to your neighbors about universal health care in Washington State? Getting them to sign the petition. That's a way to engage your community and get an initiative forward. And that's a useful initiative. Universal healthcare needs to happen at some point, and the healthcare we have is failing horribly in a lot of ways. And you can challenge me on that's a very general statement, and I will be happy to flood you with lots of statistics. So
Oh, you get no
statements
argument from me on that. I'm in 100% agreement.
have a lot of things behind them, but unless you want to get right into nitty gritty and statistics, we'll just keep it to a general statement.
Mm.
But we need to change that, and that's one way to engage with the community. It's a starting point, going out and getting them to sign the initiative to get universal health care on the Washington State ballot.
Yeah, and
that
let me jump in there, Mark. Just to be clear, when I have conversations with folks, my expectation is that folks are intellectually honest, right? I think that's important. It's really hard to have a conversation if you're looking for the gotcha. And so when I'm saying things like, hey, you're using these general statements, we need to, people don't have a sense of community. That's not always a situation where folks are triggered by that sounding intellectually dishonest. But I think people do need to be reminded as we talk about these sensitive topics that you're not meaning it necessarily to them, or that they're not, doing their part. It's just as a collective, we should be thinking about these things, and these are some things that we can do. So I just think it's important from time to time, and understanding you, I try to support you in that. Like, he is not
so
chastising.
Let's break that down just a little bit. Let's
Yeah,
break it
go
down
ahead.
into it's a little bit more real. In rural areas, that statement is almost always false, because in rural areas people know each other, because they have more resilience than cities. But the voting block, the place where things need to change, frequently comes out of cities, and cities are far more disconnected by and large. And yet we have the population centers and we have the virtual power to change things.
So imagine, if you
And
would.
in Kitsap County, we are predominantly commuter culture here because
So
the jobs aren't here.
if your audience is 10 folks like me that are over their skis in serving the community to a fault, right? I have been
Did you say
notoriously told that my self-care is horrible. Huh?
Did you say over the skis?
Over my skis, yes.
Okay,
You ever heard that?
I was
Cart
working
before the horse? Over
yeah,
your skis?
over the skis. Like I was thinking skiing, and like, oh, you're going to do a face plant,
Yeah, well, that's it, right? I'm over my skis. I do too
Okay,
much, right? It is
all
what
right.
it is. I should pull back. I should exercise self-care, right? Can't remember the last time I've actually done something for me, just for me. It's been a minute, and so the things that I do, I try to do for others, right? So even if I'm cooking, and I decide to put that on camera, right? It's hopefully to benefit someone else. Here's how you can save money. Here's how you can prepare this. Hey, I'm checking in, right? The whole reason why the podcast was created in the first place was to check in with people that were feeling isolated, right? To build that connection back. So even then, it's not purely for me, it's still in service of others. So, if you're telling 10 other people, you know what, because it comes off as you're doing it wrong. What you need to do is you need to go into your neighborhood and get to know who the mechanic is and who the nurse is, and start community gardening and this and this and this. It sounds like, man, you just,
Well,
all
it,
that you're
you're,
doing is for naught.
yeah, no, and what you're hearing is that you're doing it wrong. What I'm saying is we need to do this as well as the other things we are doing because we won't thrive until we do. We thrive
So
together. We do
what would
not
you like
thrive
me to
alone.
take off? What would you like me to take off? Because everything I do is together. So what would you like me to take off? You want me to stop a transportation company? Do you want me to stop feeding folks? You want me to cut it in half? Should I stop the podcast? Which
No,
which which
you know,
should I do?
here's what I challenge you to do is I think you should, as I mentioned earlier, you should take that petition for universal health care and just go visit your neighbors. You can do it like 20
And I'm
minutes a
telling
day
you,
for,
no, I'm telling you, I don't have the bandwidth for it. I'm already telling you I'm over my skis, and you're telling me that you're not listening to me, right? You're telling me, no, you know what? Carve out another 20 minutes of your day and do this because that's the right thing, right? So I'm telling you, what do I cut off?
oh, that's for you to decide.
Right.
What's giving you the big bang for the buck?
So so I'm doing what I think is right, right? And you and I have a relationship. So you and I can have this discussion, but you don't have the same relationship with the audience that you're speaking to. So this is how they're taking it, right? So that's what I'm trying to share with you is even though I know you and I know what your intention is, even I take it that way to some degree because I'm like, look, I'm already over my skis. So what do you want me to take off?
So let's
Should I
take it
cut off
back a
the summer
notch.
food program and not feed the youth? Should I not do the food service on Thursdays? Should I not get people to their mental health appointments or to their health? Oh man, there's a numerous health things that we do. Should I not help? The
That
STEM
would be
kids
me
at the
too.
Black Student Union,
Yeah, that would be me
right?
too because I drive the people to their mental health appointments as well.
Right. No, but
Yeah, you know,
you're not doing as much as I am, and that's fact, right? It's
well,
fact.
I'm not doing as much
Exactly.
out as you
No,
are.
no. I want to be clear. You're not doing as much as I am.
Okay,
That's fact. So when you're having this conversation with others, right? That's how they're taking it, just like you are now, right? Because that's what that sounds like, right? I'm leveraging a judgment on you, saying, "Yeah, I know you're busy, Mark, but you're not doing what I'm doing. Whatever you think you're doing, add 75% on top of that." That's what I do when I look at our comparison sheet, our balance sheet. So when we're having this conversation, that's how they're hearing that, right? And even I hear that a little bit, is what I'm saying. And so words and intent matter. And if we want folks to engage and make these changes and to prioritize it, it has to be more than you need to do this because this is the way we're going to have change, right? Because it really does sound like everything I'm doing is just a waste, and I'm never going to make the change that I say
yes,
that I want because I'm making the wrong decisions, right? So I need to
and
figure out
I've
what to
said
take
any
off my plate and take this petition around and get the petition signed.
so, and I have said none of that.
Right.
Nor have I changed anything. I have said none of that about that. I'm saying that there are other ways to look at things than what you do.
But if you're saying the way that you're saying it is You need to, right? And so you gave me some options of, hey, you need to get to know your neighbors better. You need to engage. You need to hand this petition out.
Because the
What I'm
conversation became
saying
about
is,
you. It's really
you,
about we.
but there's still an individual action that each person has to take. You see what I'm saying? And again, you and I have relationships, so you and I can have this conversation and we're good. But for folks that are out there that are hearing that, they're hearing it in the way that I'm sharing it back to you now. And we know this is true because this is the feedback that we've received in the community, right? And so how do we engage folks with what they're doing, they value, they think is important, and get synergy in there and do the things that you also feel that is important? Or if it's what you're saying, bring their puzzle piece, how does their puzzle piece help in that piece, right? Can they take the petition and talk to the people during the summer food program when the parents come up and bring their kids? That would be a way to do that, because there's nothing extra there, right? Sometimes I was just having a conversation with someone earlier, right? About tonight's public uh, the open public option to speak for 3 minutes, and we're advocating for the folks down on MLK Way. And to do that in a negotiation, you have to understand what their no's are going to be and try to overcome their no's, so you're not blindsided by it, because the no's are going to come, or the I can't, right? I'm too busy. I'm over my skis. So instead of saying, well, you know what, you got to figure that out, help me to figure out how I can incorporate that. Do my drivers hand someone the petition with a little quick write up on what the benefits are? Hey, would you mind reading this? And if you feel like signing it, you know, that doesn't cost me any more investment. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's something else to do, but it's already in the vein of what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was saying earlier. You just did it for yourself, and I'm enjoying listening to it.
Yes, yes. But because we have to model it for the folks that are listening, right? I think it's really difficult for people to figure out how they might be able to do that, right? So what they're hearing is do more,
Folks,
take
when I
on more, because what you're doing is the wrong way.
yeah, and when I said and, this is
Hmm.
exactly what Marwan is doing. Is exactly what I was talking about. It's not either or. It's and. There are ways you can figure things out. They're doing it with what you're already doing, which is what I said 20, 30 minutes ago. We just need to think a little more. The real work we need to do is thinking and determining what's important to us. And if we can find ways to do that with what we're already doing without adding more to our plate, then we win. And we're all busy.
I got to give you the horn for that. Um, and the only reason why we're able to make progress is the relationship that we have, right? For a lot of folks, if we were sitting in a Zoom meeting or a meeting, some folks might have got up and walked out, or they would have shut down. They wouldn't leave, but they're done, right? Sometimes someone can say something, and then it's like everything that comes from them is fruit from a poison tree, right? And it's like, take the meat, spit out the bones, which is critically important. And if we are going to make change, we've got to get to that point, right? That's why it's so frustrating. It frustrates me to no end, you know, when folks talk about safe spaces, right? And it needs to be respectful, and you need to manage your emotions, manage your intent. Um, but ultimately, the conversations are going to be hard. They're not going to be easy. If it was easy, it'd already be done. This is difficult. And so you have to have those conversations and maintain the respect, the relationship, the friendship, or whatever it is, so that you can actually move forward and make the change. So I hope this is helpful to folks. And it is really a good exercise to see, hey, man, I can't. And then I'm being honest, I can't. I'm not going to find 20 minutes to go knock on those doors, but I could put it in the vehicles. I could, train the staff to talk with the parents when they walk up, because that's what we do now when we're telling folks, hey, we help out with eviction assistance, we help out with this resource, we can point you in the right direction for this, and it's very empowering, again, which is why we're covering civics in government and politics now.
And just a side, well, two things. First is, and what I'm modeling is listening, which you'll hear me say again and again and again. The most important thing you can do is listen. And while Marwan was getting somewhat personal in this, I just said, it's not about me. Just let it go. It's not about me. I don't take it personally. I listen and I listen and I listen until I see the trend. And when I see the trend, then I start smiling because I realize the trend is Marwan's modeling the behavior and he's starting to figure out how to include it in his very, very busy life because he realized it's important to him. But if I was too busy trying to answer him instead of listening, I wouldn't have gotten there and I would have taken it personally and we would have had a problem.
Facts. Facts.
So both people have to respect the other person and you have to listen to hear what's actually being said underneath the words. And you can't do that if you're taking it personally. You're too busy trying to push back.
It's going to add, it's one of the reasons why you don't give me forewarning what we're talking about. Because it's a lot easier to be measured and check emotions and feelings when you know and you're prepared, right? It's like, all right, this is how I feel about this. This is what's going on. If you're going to improve an area of your life, if you take things too personally, or things become emotional, or you take things the wrong way, uh, first look at the person who's saying it and think about the intent on which they intend to give it, right? Am I going to talk to you in a way that is trying to harm you? Like, do you really believe that I would be doing that to you when I've been only trying to help you, right? So if you're looking at it that way, it may be hard to hear, but it's still something that you have to work through and process so that your curve is faster, right? That you get this emotional trigger for whatever it is. How long are you going to stay here before you come back down, and then you can start to be logical and think and be rational and be solution oriented, right? I always use the getting cut off in traffic all the time. You get cut off in traffic, the mother didn't see you at all, but you're pissed off for the next 3 hours because you were cut off, and the person really was, or you get cut off and that person didn't see you and they're like waving at you like, oh, I'm so sorry, but you're pissed. You know what I mean? And it's like, so how long
And
do you stay in that space?
I'm forever being aware. I for those of you who don't know, I drive for G2 periodically as well. And I am forever suddenly very aware of the cameras in the vans. When I get in a situation, I'm like, you. And I'm going, ooh, I'm on camera doing that. Huh. Hope Stephanie's amused.
But it's good practice, right? Because it's about checking your emotions and not allowing yourself to get spun up. Things are gonna get harder. Things are already hard. It was harder than it was a decade ago, right? And it's deteriorating quickly.
You to get
So
harder. And that's the
yes,
thing.
the emotional,
None of you are doing anything wrong.
illogical. Mm,
Yeah, none of you are doing anything wrong. Don't ever think that that's what I'm saying. What I am saying is we could do it better. And I'm not saying that you need to go out and do it better now and race out and do this. It's going to take time, but you have some time, and it's a matter of we need to do this together. And to that, you have to listen, and you have to respect, and you have to engage. And we're all busy. Do it on your own time frame. Do it when you can. But engaging is important. And I know sometimes you just feel so tired that you can't. But other times, have somebody over for drinks, for coffee, when you can. It's not
well,
a now thing.
and I think changing the phraseology there might be helpful, right? Because when you say that you could do it better, it means that you're not doing something good enough. Um, so maybe there are some synergies that you can gain. Maybe things will be easier if you know do some of these things. Um, and so Yeah, technically, we're arguing semantics here, but when people hear that, it's like, man, you understand how much I already do, and you're telling me I need to do better, that I'm it's not good enough. It's like, well, no, actually, if you consider these things,
I think
you'll
all
get
of
these
us can do.
synergies. It will make it easier for you, and whatnot. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, for me to do better would be for me to step back, honestly, because I'm not going to be able to do anything if I'm dead, right? I mean, my
Yeah,
this is what my doctors tell me. I'm on a new blood pressure medicine. I need to, change my diet. I need to exercise, and those things I'm not doing at the capacity that I was even 2 months ago because I'm over my skis, right? So I'm not going to be
right.
here. I'm not going to be here to see the change anyway. But you know, if I'm going to be in this, for as long as I can and operate at a high level, I've got to take care of those pieces also, right? So
And
that is
the,
important.
and there's things you've heard me say a bunch of times, and I will say it again. We need to fail better every day. And I mean, we, as universally, we have to realize as a whole that failure is not evil. Failure is the way we learn. And I have to say that the best things in my life came from some of the biggest failures I've had. Can I do better? Every single day. Do I do better? That's a much harder thing to say, but I always try to, and I always know there's room to do better. Even with everything that I do, there's room to improve, and there's room to learn something new.
Well, and be cognizant of the four agreements too, everyone. Always do your best. And so your best isn't gonna be hundred
The same.
percent every day. It's gonna look different. I'm sick. I got a long haul COVID. I've got these symptoms. What is your best under those conditions? And give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. But
Absolutely. And
there
give
are
other
things that
people
need to change. Yeah,
and give
absolutely.
other. So you usually at this point challenge me to say the final thing, and I'm gonna say something that my ex-wife used to say all the time that I thought is appropriate today, especially during your comments earlier today. She would say, "Happiness is having your expectations met. So set your expectations appropriately."
I I will not be striving for happiness. My expectations are here, man. You know, and I
I
want
I,
everyone to try to meet those expectations.
I expect a lot of myself, and I like to see others succeed. Do I expect them to? At my definition of it, probably not. But then again, I can look at you and say you do amazing things, Marwan, and I don't expect you to meet my expectations because that would be unrealistic, and it's really not about you, and it's really not about me. What you
Right,
do
but I
isn't
don't I
about me.
don't meet my own expectations, right?
Well, then,
I'm
yeah, then
constantly
you're dead.
driving myself to do better. Hmm?
Yep. And then you're destined to be unhappy.
That's right.
And
That's why I
Diane,
don't strive for happiness. I'm not trying to be happy because happiness sounds like content, and I'm not content with how
no,
things are, you know.
no. Now we're back to semantics. Happiness is not content. Enjoying the moment that you have succeeded at something and just being warm about it. I'm never
Yes.
content, but I'm frequently happy.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I'm a happy person. Don't get me wrong, y'all. I love what I do. I can't imagine doing anything else. I'm doing what I want to do. This is a choice. This is not I have to. Folks were saying to me, when I first started this, it's like, why not just, live well? You're single now, you've got your daughter, just live and enjoy. Use your timeshare, visit the world and this and that. It's like I just don't care about that. That doesn't move me, that doesn't motivate me. These are the things that motivate me and move me. So, and in that regard, that is what happiness looks like for me. But I do need to exercise some self-care, and I need to take care of myself. uh, they say put
Amen.
the
You
scuba
have to
gear
know
on
how to do it.
yourself first. with oxygen mask on you before you put it on other people. I'm not good at that, so I'm constantly giving other people the oxygen mask. Like, I'll be all right. I'll be all right.
Take care of you
Time is
because
short.
one day you don't. Yep.
Well,
So,
and that's all right. That's for a deeper conversation. I don't expect to be here in 15 years, so that's a whole nother story. So, that's
so
why I go so hard.
for next week, we have a subject coming up that I'm just going to tell people that they should check out a guy named Beau, Beau, of the Fifth Column on YouTube. And they should take a look at his recent video on freedom because that's going to be part of the topic for next week.
All right. Uh,
I know it
all
seems
right.
cheesy to make a video about somebody who's making videos, but in
No,
this
no,
case, it's
no.
pretty
It's
important.
okay. I just couldn't spell the word column. It escaped me. That's
Oh,
why I was making the face. I'm like, how do I spell column? All right, I'll put that in the chat for everyone.
that thing always gets me.
All right, y'all. Man, I love our 1 p.m. conversations. Definitely look forward to it. Always riveting. Hope everyone got something out of this today. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit the bell. Someone reported that they weren't getting the alerts when I was going live. So they unsubscribed and resubscribed, and they started getting the alerts again. So if you haven't been getting the alerts, unsubscribe and resubscribe, because they'll shadow ban you because they don't want these conversations to come out. All right. So for Mark Boatwright-Frost, I am Marwan Cameron. We'll be back at 3 p.m. for our housing discussion and city council tonight at 6. Until then.